I'm Ryan Peck,
And I'm Nicole Barlow.
and this is Soundtrack Your Life, where we speak with the guests about a soundtrack that is important to them. Returning to the podcast today is Brad from the Pop Culture Yearbook Podcast. Welcome back, Brad.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me back. Wasn't really sure I'd ever get asked back after what we talked about last time, so this is kind of an honor.
Actually, we are so happy that you still talk to us after that last time.
Oh, it was fun.
Yeah, so Brad did an episode with us on the film Beautiful Girls, and today we are going to talk about a movie that I think we're a little bit more agreeable about. But Brad's great. I listen to his podcast. I talk to him on Twitter all the time, and he contributed to our 2024 Best of Music list. So Thank you for that.
Thank you for asking me.
And so, he's got great taste like a lot of our other guests that we asked. And, if you are not subscribed to our Patreon, you may want to, so you can check out Brad's picks as well as Scott Interante's picks and Catherine Moore and Tara Jean Caspro. So anyways, so Brad is back. And today we are going to talk about the 2016 Lonely Island film, Popstar. Never Stop, Never Stopping. So Brad, why are we talking about Popstar today?
Well, first off, I want to say, I love the movie, but I didn't pick this movie. So if it goes sideways, you came to me and asked if I wanted to talk about this movie. So it's not like last time. Don't want a repeat of the Beautiful Girls disaster.
So a little bit backstory is Brad has done an episode on Popstar, so I know that you are a fan.
Yes.
And I wanted to make sure we didn't repeat the flow of the last episode we did together. So I wanted to make sure that I love Popstar as well. I showed you offline that I have the vinyl variant Popstar soundtrack on vinyl with the Connor for Real album cover, which we'll get into shortly. But Nicole saw it for the first time, but I was like 100% sure she was going to enjoy it. So
yeah, you were really confident, and you were correct. This is like the least controversial film that you could talk about, Brad. It's so good. How do you hate this? I don't know how you hate this. It is just chock-a-block with cameos and jokes and the silliest and grossest and best sort of humor from the Lonely Island from the aughts. It was amazing. I don't know how I missed it. I kind of do know how I missed it.
Everybody did.
Everybody did, right? That's exactly right. I think even Andy Samberg has been like, well, they kind of marketed it as a Justin Bieber mockumentary, and it isn't at all. So even if it has the aesthetics of that, and I think at the time may have been kind of imitating the Justin Bieber documentary film in terms of how it was promoted, it's not that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Yes, your text to me today was, Popstar is so stupid, I loved it.
Every stupid moment, I loved it.
I think that's what I loved about it, is I didn't expect much going in. So this type of music is not mine. like I'm not into, a lot of the, I like all the cameos, but they're not people I usually listen to or anything. So it looked funny because I like Andy Samberg, and I love those guys. But watching it, I didn't expect a lot. I watched it with my wife, and she's really hard to please. And when it comes to this kind of a movie, but we both loved it. I don't think she'll ever watch it again, but she loved it that time. And I've watched it, I don't know how many times since. And the other movie you had asked me about was Walk Hard, which I think these two movies are just the most perfect satires. And it's not just because of it's so well written and everything, but the music is just amazing in both. You could listen to the soundtrack and enjoy it by itself.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just a total lost treasure, and I'm always happy to talk about it.
So Brad, where did you first see it? Was it at home? Did you watch it in the theaters?
No, it was on. So we were still getting Netflix discs, and so I had added it to our queue, and it came in discs, and we watched it on DVD on a Friday or Saturday night sometime.
Children, Netflix used to give you real DVDs. They would send them in the mail in little paper parcels.
It was great.
It was a great time.
So I guess I'm the only person on this planet that watched it in the theater.
Maybe.
Opening weekend. Yeah, so I was excited about it. My friend had a kind of restaurant tiki bar that was in the same mall as a movie theater. So I was like, let's go have a few cocktails and then just stumble into the AMC and watch this movie because it'll be at least pretty funny. The Lonely Island, Andy Samberg, and having a couple drinks in you will probably make the experience even better.
Mhm.
And the theater was definitely not full, but I think everyone had a good time. Those of us who were there. But this movie famously bombed at the box office, unfortunately. I think Time has been very generous to it. It's aged well. I don't think I've seen it since I saw it in the theater. Like I've seen a lot of the
Oh,
clips
really?
circulating because like it's always people are always like quoting it or using memes from it. So it's like been in my mind, and obviously I have the soundtrack, so I remember a lot of it. But I feel like outside of like the joke about playing everything off an iPod, and I think I think they're playing with like a Nintendo Wii at one point.
Yeah.
Outside of a couple things, like it feels like it could have been released today, and it would still be like just as topical.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I don't know if you two felt this way, but I actually felt like it could be made today. It's almost like a little predictive of where pop stardom has arced in a way. There's a part where Andy Samberg's character Connor is like, There's no such thing as selling out anymore. Like we can put music in fridges, like it's fine." And I do kind of feel like we're there. I feel like the age of like TikTok bred pop stardom, like we're there. Like everybody is documenting like every shit that they take as
Right.
part of a promotion for an album on TikTok. So in a way, it feels kind of prescient. Like, yeah, of course. This is pop stardom, absolutely. It's also like I think worth mentioning that it is very much in the style of Spinal Tap. It's like, what if we did Spinal Tap, but it's pop music?
Mhm.
Yeah, it definitely owes a lot to Spinal Tap. Like if you're gonna make a movie like this, like whether you want to avoid it, you're not gonna be able to avoid the Spinal Tap comparisons.
But in a good way. I mean that in the most complimentary way. I feel like it's this, Walk Hard, and Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
Like you've got to choose three absolutely amazing mockumentaries
Because
about
there's
music.
others, and there's none that come to my mind that I know and love or anything. But Walk Hard's another one where when I first saw it, I was a bomb too. And when I first watched it, I
Hmm.
didn't really know what I was getting into. And I mean, it was like this movie is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. It was
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah.
Also very predictive, I feel like, of biopics for musicians after that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Right.
well, there's so many. I just saw the Bob Dylan movie, and they kind of all follow pretty close to the same sort of arc.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw that too, and I feel like we keep bringing it up as an aside on every podcast now because it feels very all roads lead back to like the Timmy Chalamet Bob Dylan movie.
He was fun on SNL though.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, better than I was expecting, especially after watching that movie.
But Brad, were you a Lonely Island fan going into watching this movie? Like casual Lonely Island fan, knew them from SNL? Do you think
Casual.
okay.
So um, I mean, of course, I know all the big skits and everything, the digital shorts from SNL, and that's what I knew the most. But so when we started our podcast, the guy that I started it with, he doesn't do it anymore, but he is like the biggest fan of Andy Samberg in the world. Like, I'm not kidding. He is like he loves him so much. And so when we first started, we have an episode on Popstar, like you said, and but we one of our very first episodes was on the Lonely Island, and we did it on the Whack album, which he loved. And so that was really my introduction to them outside of Saturday Night Live, as far as like they put out actual albums of music, and I loved listening to that. It was great. So I am a decent fan, but like I don't seek him out like that. But I've learned a lot about him through him, and I've liked everything that I ever see. This movie being probably my favorite.
Yeah, to me, Andy Samberg is primarily Joanna Newsom's husband. So I like am sort of a casual where I've heard these songs and I've heard these songs from Popstar outside the context of the movie, but I've never seen the movie and they hit so much differently during the concert scenes in the movie.
Well, like the
They
stage and
do.
those concert scenes, like the whole production is just
God,
amazing too. And the Bin
I know.
Laden song is probably my
Oh my
favorite when it
God.
comes to that, with all the women marching in their, their
Yeah,
military outfits and everything. It's so well done.
and all the holograms.
Oh my
Adam Levine spanking
goodness.
himself.
Oh my God. It's so good. It's so good. And there's the beard. It's so good. I was dead.
I mean, I think I'm like Brad, where I knew Andy Samberg from like the digital shorts that he would do. Lazy Sunday, I think was the first big one. I knew of a lot of the, you know, like I'm on a boat. I remember drunkenly yelling that on a yacht, or not on a yacht or whatever. We had a company party on a boat once, and I remember
Right?
just
Like,
like,
what a yacht. Right.
I wish I was on a yacht.
You must have a
But
really good Patreon.
yeah, Patreon pays for the yacht.
My favorite of those is I threw it on the ground. Like some of they're just so, you wonder where they come up with their ideas from. I don't even know, but like that's when he says happy birthday to the ground. That's like one of my favorite moments of anything they've done. So
Yeah, I remember when Andy Samberg was introduced on SNL, like it was like a weekend update thing, and it was him and Bill Hader. They were joining at the same time,
hmm
and Bill Hader was like breaking out all his impressions, and then Andy Samberg would just go, "What's up?" and everyone would just start like screaming. And I had a friend who like held that against Andy Samberg for the longest time. He was like, Bill Hader is so much more talented than Andy Samberg. How come he's not a bigger star than? I'm like, like it doesn't have to be like either or, Like they can both be like they're buddies. Like Bill Hader's in all his movies.
Right.
and they have different skills with their comedy.
Yeah, and they're both very good at it.
I think the thing that maybe set him back a little bit was the comparisons to Adam Sandler at first, just because of the name, but then they look kind of similar, and he did a lot of singing and stuff. So
They did that
how
movie together too.
that came a little later, I think, but yeah, that was inevitable probably.
I also feel like it's worth mentioning, right? That like I think Andy Samberg gets kind of a little bit of a bad rap in comparison to some of his contemporaries at SNL, right? Where people tend to like categorize his humor as being more juvenile, and I think The Lonely Island has a lot to do with that because yeah, the lyrics are kind of juvenile, but it's an on purpose thing. Like to do this level of like parody songcraft takes a very smart person.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of intelligence and insight in every single one of the songs in Popstar.
Well, that's what when I first listened to that Whack album, because I'd never listened to like, outside of SNL before, I was like, this is brilliant. Like, I don't know how you can not only craft the lyrics, but then you set it to music where it's like listenable and it's good. And it's like, yeah, they should deserve a lot of credit for what they do.
I mean, there's an entire song in this film, right? And on the soundtrack about Mona Lisa and how she's the original basic bitch.
And how
Talk
she's
about
ugly
it,
as fuck.
bitch, ugly. Like
Garbage
it's
Pail
so,
Kid.
right? The Garbage Pail Kid, and then the Garbage Pail Kid like version of her comes up on like the Jumbotron as part of like the show. It's so dumb. Your smirk like you're hiding a dick. It's so dumb, but it's so good. Like you cannot help but laugh at it. Incredible.
Well, and I think
Uh,
there's some truth to it too, because she's the painting isn't because she's beautiful. And so an
yeah.
idiot like him sees it, and like he looks at it in his way, and he's like, well, she's ugly. So, but that's, I think, part of the funny is that it's what you'd expect, and so it's not just being mean or anything. It's more commenting on him than
Yes,
anything.
absolutely. Yes, he is consistently like the butt of the joke because yeah,
Yeah.
of course somebody that's this shallow would write a song about the Mona Lisa from his perspective.
Right. Or how about or his equal rights song,
That
and
was
how he
great.
has to constantly comment about how he's not gay.
Which is just Macklemore, right? Like we're just like giving shit to Macklemore. That's how I took
Pretty
it.
much.
I was like, this is just Macklemore. Sorry, Macklemore. You seem pretty cool now.
And it wasn't just that saying he's not gay, but throwing in like beef jerky and hot wings and
Leonard Skinner.
and Leonard Skinner and sports and like all these manly things to really drive home the point. Beer,
Right.
hoagies, sweatpants.
Subliminal manly.
Or he has that line, he has that verse about how while he's having sex with all these women, he's thinking about how gay
Yeah.
people are being repressed.
Yeah. All straight women, by the way.
Yeah.
All these beautiful straight women, all 10 of them.
And I love in the universe of this movie that even in the music video, which he directed, people are looking at him all disgusted and side-eyed, like
Yeah.
Pink.
Pink
And
sings in there.
and there's that gay couple that he's like being the officiant for, and they're both like, "What are you saying?"
It's nice though, because at the end of the movie, he realizes the song was offensive, so you get a little character development out of it later on.
Just a little bit.
That's growth. In this movie, that's growth.
One thing that I picked up on later is like Nicole said, Andy Samberg is married to Joanna Newsom, who is she's a musical prodigy, plays the harp and piano, has many great albums, and not like super mainstream, but like kind of in that popular indie person, but not exactly crossed over sort of realm. Like I saw her open for Wilco. I think that's like a good way to show
Oh.
how popular she is. So she makes a cameo in the film as the steampunk doctor. I believe that is what it is in the credits. Steampunk doctor during the flatliner scene.
Oh, this
She's got like
yeah.
blue hair.
I think
She's
all
like,
three of
"Clear!"
their wives are in the movie at some
Yeah, all
point.
three of their wives are in the movie. Akiva's wife is at the end. She's the kind of like the producer with the headset that
he's
like makes
making
out
out
with
with
him
her.
at the end.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Oh wow, like they're making out hard." I didn't know they knew each other. So yeah, all the wives make a cameo, which is pretty cool. But yeah, Joanna Newsom's in there, and she's kind of gotten more popular, even though she hasn't put out an album in a while. And like in the movie Night Bitch, they like reference one of her albums a lot. Nicole, is that right?
Yeah, well, there's an entire needle drop in Night Bitch with Amy Adams where they play the entirety of the song Divers from the album of the same name. And it's a very long song. It's very lyric heavy. So it kind of is surprising that it was used in that way, but that's pretty cool. Joanna Newsom does have like I think kind of a side gig as an actress as well. She was in Inherent Vice. She's got a little bit of like a couple acting credits to her name, but she is primarily singer-songwriter. But it was funny to see her in this, and I would not have recognized her at all. But also, this movie is so dense with cameos from everyone you could possibly imagine in the pop music landscape of 2016. It's everyone.
Yeah. I mean, to the point where when there's a character on the screen and you're not sure who they are, you assume they're somebody and you got to figure out who they are. But they're probably
Right.
a couple of them aren't. They're actors.
They're used in a really great way too. Like it's I feel like it enhances the film rather than coming off as, like corny or like, well, of course they're giving that person a cameo. I love that little ASAP Rocky cutaway where he talks about the ASAP Rocky Crunchables.
Mhm.
Yep.
Like I have my own line of like ASAP Rocky Lunchables,
Well,
which
I think
also like Mr. Beast has Lunchables now. Like, come on, like this is just what we're doing. I feel like this is very predictive of things that are happening like now.
what
Yeah.
makes cameos so great is that they're all bought in. Like they're all so
Yes.
committed to it, and a lot of them make fun of themselves. I think
Yes.
the Mariah Carey, she only
Mhm.
has one line at the beginning, but it's so funny when they're playing the song "Humble," and she said how that song spoke to her because she's just probably the humblest person she knows.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's my
It's
favorite.
great.
Between that and the Batman Lego movie where she's the mayor for whatever reason, like she has like this like streak of like really like funny like meta cameos and things. And I was like, "How's that voice?" And then I read the credits. Mariah Carey as the mayor.
Yeah,
I
like
did-
apparently she can laugh at herself. There's so many cameos in this. It's really quite ridiculous. I'm just kind of reading through them now because the list is so long, but it's everyone that you could imagine. It's
Mhm.
Rollins,
Yeah.
Ringo
And
Starr, and Katy Perry, and Adam Levine gets like more than one moment.
in 2016, we weren't sick of Questlove showing up in cameos like we're sick of Dave Grohl and Henry Rollins now.
Oh, Questlove.
But yeah, this movie has the appropriate amount of Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, not too much.
Not too much. And again, I think it's him being able to take a role that pokes fun at himself as the chef who is like cutting the carrot. All these like ridiculous
Cut it
shape
more quiet.
specifications. Which is great. It's amazing. I think he wasn't overexposed at this point or like involved in a whole DUI, this will ruin the tour thing.
Right.
So
Well, and then he
different.
gets to be the fish costume at the end too, which nobody knows, but it makes him so proud that he got to be out there doing that.
He's like, yeah, in the fish costume. I was like, they predict the Masked Singer too?
Yeah, that's what it looked
I don't
like.
know. I was like, does culture just owe a lot more debt to Popstar than they're saying?
That's very possible. I mean, there's so many things like the ASAP Rocky Crunchables, him oversharing on social media. Like, I just jacked it, guys.
Yeah. Doink to doink. Hashtag doink to doink.
Doink to doink. Well, they had shows like this at the time, of course, but I love the Snoop Dogg at the end with the surprise, motherfucker. You've been surprised.
Like everyone having their own little documentary show and
Oh, the TMZ people too. That's another.
oh,
I don't watch
so
that show
good.
very often, so I don't know how close that is. They're so over the top, but they're so funny because Will Arnett's great, and it's just funny
And
no
him
matter
just
what.
drinking out of
watching it.
everyone's water cup.
Cups
It's
get bigger and bigger.
That's why it's so good because as they go along, 'cause there's like 3 bits where you get like the fake TMZ crap, right? And then the cups keep getting bigger and bigger in each scene, and they keep getting more like foamy at the mouth and like over the top and cackling in these like ridiculous, creepy ways. It's great.
And then Mike Birbiglia is like, I wanted to be a longboard model. Maybe we should hang outside of the office, guys.
With like the long hair. So
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, who's got that picture of James Franco outside of a Denny's? And everyone like runs to their laptop.
it's so great because it really is a send-up of not just music, but like all aspects of like a 360 of pop culture in 2016.
Yeah,
Right,
from
and
like
like you said,
televised wedding proposals.
it was kind of marketed where it looked like just a Justin Bieber thing, but it encompasses so much stuff that if you actually watch it, that's part of what it's too bad if you missed out because it's brilliant and it's so funny.
Right. Like everything from like there is a Spinal Tap element too. Right? Like even if you don't like this music,
Yeah, I love it in here.
yeah, you love it in here, and the story is just so familiar that
Mhm.
you don't have to like necessarily be familiar with like pop star pop culture, I guess. That wing of pop culture, but it's still just like everywhere where you at least recognize it.
Yeah, you could drop into this movie at any time, and I think you would understand what's going on. And again, I think that's complimentary because yes, it's following that formula, but it's also a send-up of both the formula and the culture, and it works. And the songs work. Like I cannot overstate how much the songs work within the context of the movie. Randall Poster is the music soup for this too, which I know Ryan knows, but another big shout out to Randall Poster.
I think that's the thing that hooked me when I first watched it is that so the song "I'm So Humble" is basically in the opening credits, and the song and the production on stage is just amazing. And I'm not a big Adam Levine fan, but like his voice in it is perfect, and the hologram thing is perfect. And it's like by the end of that song, you're like, this is great. I want to see more. And it was just, and then the lyrics are, I mean, there's so many great lyrics in that song. And the cameos start and they're all poking fun at themselves. So, I mean, it hooks you right away.
Yeah, and that performance just like tells you everything you need to know about Connor for real. Like the lyrics, and then when the Adam Levine hologram pops up, he goes, "This costed a lot of money."
No, it's wonderful. And then his previous trio, right, which is like this Beastie Boys-esque trio called the Style Boys. Also fantastic. I love that they like created a whole like zeitgeisty moment around the donkey roll.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh yeah, everybody remembers the donkey roll. They want you to do the donkey roll.
Especially Usher.
Yeah, that was Usher's dream of being able to do the donkey roll with the Style Boys.
Usher got to do the donkey roll. He wore the sweatshirt and everything.
I mean, which is also funny because everyone knows that Usher is also Bieber's like mentor. Like he's the one that broke Bieber into the mainstream. So
Right.
for Usher to be in here is also very meta. Like obviously, if this was just a Justin Bieber slander piece, like Usher probably wouldn't have made a cameo.
Yeah, and it's really not. It's not. I thought going into it that it would be maybe a little bit more like the other two, if people are familiar with that show, the other two,
Oh,
which
I
is kind of
watched
a
a season of that show.
yeah, it's like a parody of this kid pop star, right? And that almost feels more Bieber adjacent or Bieber-esque than this does. Which I think it almost doesn't even have, you wouldn't even have prerequisite knowledge of Justin Bieber, and it wouldn't matter. I had very little, and it did not make a difference. Because everything just works, and it's a bunch of stuff that is constantly keeping you on your toes. When Emma Stone shows up for the Turn Up the Beat
Yeah, you
song,
blink and you miss her.
blink and you miss her, and you're like, "Wait, what?" Emma Stone is in this too. Doing, like, just a very capable job of convincing you that, yeah, like, she could be a pop starlet. 'Cause, yeah, of course that works. Like, you almost don't even notice her because 'cause you're like, "Oh, yeah, that's it feels real in a sense."
Yeah, and this is pre La La Land, so it's before like she was like a mega star, Oscar winning actress.
Right. Like I said, like, can you draw a direct line from this to La La Maybe.
Was
I don't
this
know.
actually the same year, I think? I'm not sure
Ooh,
which
I
one
think
came
La
out
La Land
first.
was the year after.
good question.
They were around that time.
Oh, they are the same year.
Are the same year.
But this
Interesting.
probably came out first. La La Land probably came out at the end of the year, for the
Right.
Oscars.
Yeah, maybe, but that's interesting, Brad. I did not realize they were around the same time. That song is great too for what it is, and that song "Turn Up the Beat" is funny because it's kind of like the crux of the entire, falling apart of the Style Boys is who wrote the all catchphrase verse,
Which is just
Right.
stupid.
which is so stupid because it's stupid, and then it comes to, like, that culmination of the end where they basically do, like, make a reunion song that is, like, all catchphrases. Incredible Thoughts
With
with
Michael
Michael
Bolton.
Bolton. Shower Thoughts is essentially, like, what it all is.
Right. From the weed farmers journals.
Right. Exactly.
They kept that whole thing hidden pretty good until the very end because you think he's just this failed farmer, doesn't know what he's doing about anything, but turns out he was pretty successful out there.
Yeah,
Yeah, right?
his woodworking is really
Yeah,
bad.
this one's called Government in Disarray for obvious reasons.
This is my poppy. Looks like the poppy, right? I also want to talk about his song, Lawrence's song. It gets cut off in the movie, but in the full studio version, the chorus is sung by Chester from Linkin Park.
Oh, the things
So
in
he's
my
like
Jeep.
screaming like, "These are the things in my Jeep," and it's pretty great. So shout out to the late Chester Bennington for,
Oh,
being a good sport and poking some fun at himself for just yelling things in my Jeep.
Yeah, I was gonna say I noticed that it says that song is with Linkin Park, but I never noticed it in the movie. And then I guess when I listened to the soundtrack, I didn't really. It went right over my head. Like I didn't even. But that's another good cameo there, whether it's in the movie or not.
And it kind of goes along with him just like random, like just making up random things like catchphrases. And these are just the things that are in my car.
but honestly, like, even even that bit of the unsuccessful, like, "These are the things in my Jeep" song that you do get is so fucking funny. Like, the the, like, part where you cut to the Jeep, and then he, like, sings the chorus, and you're like, "Wait, that's what that was about?" Is so well done.
Well, and I think was it Nas who's
It's
like,
Nas.
that song doesn't really appeal to me because I have different things in my Jeep.
Right? And it didn't really work for me, different things in my it worked for me because 'cause I'm like, "Yeah, like, why is there always so much bullshit in, like, a Jeep Wrangler?"
Yeah, the Nas cameo surprised me because, at first you're just like, oh, wow, they got Nas to do this movie. But he just gets like funnier and funnier with how deadpan he is throughout.
Yeah, he comes back like what 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah, and, he's very excited about the Style Boys reunion. I'm glad I got to live for this.
It's funny to see Carrie Underwood too, and how she like is supposed to be like the fangirl of the band, and like she's not a big star. She just loves these guys so much, and how much they were important to her.
Right. The Lonely Island, obviously, they've done albums before, but I think this is a time where they worked with like a lot of outside producers and stuff. So they were getting, different beats from different places. They ended up not going with like a lot of big name producers. Like there's no like Pharrell beats or Timbaland or Kanye or anything like that in here. I believe they happened upon, I don't think it was a RZA beat, but it was a beat that was like for the Wu-Tang Clan at some point, and they like had to pass on it because they just didn't want like, I guess, something too good or too respectable to be for Connor for real. But it's interesting. Like a lot of the producers have produced songs for Connor are not like super active now. Like their heyday was like between 2009 and 2019, which kind of makes sense. Maybe they didn't uh, make it past the decade. But someone that adds a lot of additional production is Greg Kurstin, who is now like one of the biggest producers on the planet. He did the last few Foo Fighters albums, probably best known for his work with Adele. But it's kind of funny how like in the credits you'll see Greg Kurstin's name pop up a lot. Speaking of how in 2025 pop culture probably owes a lot to this movie, they're working with Greg Kurstin first.
Yeah, and there's a lot of respect to the Wu-Tang Clan paid in this movie,
Yes.
aside from aside from them not wanting to, I guess, take like a beat that should have gone to them. There is that part at the end where one of the Style Boys is saying to Connor, "No, no, no, it's just like in the Wu-Tang Clan. Like you can go solo, but you're still part of the Wu-Tang Clan." And that's what makes him understand that he doesn't have to choose between his solo career and the Style Boys.
Yeah, they just keep on naming other members. It's like you're Method Man,
Right.
or it's like you're the Jizza,
Right.
or it's like and it's just like the same example over and over again. Yeah, so I guess with blending Incredible Thoughts and all the other songs kind of in the movie at the end, I guess Greg Kurstin had a hand in that to make that mega mix, that Connor for real retrospective performance, which is actually really cool. Like the fact that they are able to nail that kind of feel good climax at the end,
Yeah,
pretty hard to do.
it's a great ending.
I mean,
Agree.
with Michael Bolton, it definitely helps, but
Agree. The stagecraft feels very much like something you would or have seen on an awards show.
Yeah, again, it's such a dumb movie, but it's so like true to life. Like it's like this, you can see all this, so much of this stuff happening, at least in some level. Which that's what makes comedy so good, is when it actually has some truth behind it.
right. Everyone loves a good band reunion.
Yep.
Everyone loves a cameo, whether it's a Michael Bolton or Usher or both.
And Michael Bolton is so committed, just like all the other ones.
Yeah, the fact that he gets up from like the piano and he's like walking around stage and he kind of like sings along with some of the lyrics. Doesn't he have to sing along with something on the cocaine?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. With the cat.
A cat addicted to cocaine.
And the stage is obviously just like nothing but a smoke machine.
Yeah. And the visuals are so bad, but also so great.
All of the visuals are so bad, but so great. That also the recurring gag with the Daft Punk helmet is
Oh God, that's so funny.
incredible to me. The part where at some point the helmet,
He falls over.
his head falls, and then this beam of light that emanates from the top of the helmet like, blinds everyone in the whole fucking stadium.
And that
and they're all
ridiculous sound goes off later on too.
yes. And he's like, "Can I take off the helmet? It's like really hurting my back." So great.
And then you also hear like the Harry Potter audiobook go off.
Yes. HP.
See, you know what? I don't
Harry
think
P.
I caught that. This is a very rewatchable movie. I imagine you will catch, more things and find other jokes to enjoy. It's very joke dense.
Oh, absolutely. Like, so I've seen this multiple times, but like I forgot how funny Imogen Poots Ashley Wednesday is,
Yeah.
where she's like, I used to watch how, there's these will they, won't they couples, and that's what I decided that's what I wanted to
Are they
be when
really
I
in
grew
love,
up.
or are they just doing it for the publicity?
Yeah,
Right,
And that's what I
right.
want.
and that's what I want.
Every little girl.
And then you
Yeah.
have Seal singing at it, and then he's talking about his scars on his face and saying that he fought wolves, and it's like
Yeah, how do you think I got these
he's
scars?
willing to do anything.
Oh my god. I mean, I love on this show getting to talk about movies that are about music and this whole kind of like meta world that they create, but that culmination with them proposing, and Seal is singing at the proposal, but then gets attacked by the wolves that they've invited because she likes wolves. Is it's so dumb.
Well, she
But it's
was a
so
wolf,
great.
right, in a previous life, which makes
Right.
so much sense.
I can't believe he remembered.
Hey, can you stop the music? I think it's really upsetting the wolves. No. Great little cameo by Paul Shear there
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. And then besides the
Always.
music cameos, there's actor ones too, like that. And I think you got to give credit too, because he's in Walk Hard as well. But whenever Tim Meadows is in one of these movies, he adds so
Oh.
much to it. He's just
Yes.
he's perfect.
You're so
Yes.
correct. Tim Meadows is never bad in anything.
But
Tony,
yeah,
Tony.
let's dedicate a segment to the brilliance of Tim Meadows in this movie. The manager, who was formerly of Tony.
Yeah, not Tony Tone, which is a real group. Tony.
Tony.
Creative differences, because he wanted the question mark on the end of his name instead of the exclamation point.
I did see in the credits that they did pull a Tony track for when he's talking about that, the song Anniversary, which is played at like almost every wedding.
Yes.
But yeah, it's so good. I was telling Nicole earlier, like every time they do that 30 Seconds to Mars joke, like I can't stop laughing.
That joke is hilarious.
And Tim Meadows' commitment to just like being furious at him, we've had this discussion before. It's just a band name, not an actual measurement of time.
Not a fact.
Not a fact.
Yeah, it's not a fact.
And I don't really think that like they target as hard as they could in a movie like this. They're pretty kind and pretty equal opportunity with who they make fun of. But they do get in a pretty good dig there, I think, to 30 Seconds to Mars, at least as far as I'm concerned. And then also a really good dig to U2 and the whole iPhone download thing with the fridges.
Oh, right.
This is like him forcing his second solo album to be on these like smart fridges is very like U2. Ryan and I would just say that.
And his anger, you mentioned too, at the end there, because he was working for Hunter the Hungry too, and then he turns on him, and when he says, "I will eat your face," and he just that final scene where he goes off on him is also hilarious.
And then he walks over, he's like, "Did you see that, guys?"
I can't believe I did that.
He's really at top form. Everybody is at top form in
Yeah.
this movie. Even the people that are on screen for just a second are firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, but such a hidden gem to Meadows.
Yes.
Oh, speaking of the refrigerator scene, Maya Rudolph makes the most of her time as Deborah.
Indeed.
What's the root of Deborah? No, Deborah.
What with the hard R there?
Yes.
Yeah, like. Oh, should we talk about Bill Hader too?
Oh yeah,
Sure, yeah.
flatlining.
Speaking of the Joanna Newsom cameo, so Bill Hader is the stage tech who likes to get F-lined when he's got some downtime.
He got
Yeah, I was
the idea from the movie Flatliners.
I was texting Nicole, I was like, who remembers that movie?
Weirdly enough, I do remember Flatliners. It's because it's such an odd premise, and I think they may have played it on TV a lot in the 80s and 90s.
I remember it because we owned a video store when it came out. I never actually watched the movie, but like it was always there on the shelf. And it's like, this is Julia Roberts' follow-up to Pretty Woman, Flatliners. It was just kind of odd.
Right. It was a weird movie.
My memory of Flatliners is being a kid and going to the grocery store with my mom, going to Cub Foods. Brad knows what I'm
Cub
talking
Foods,
about.
yeah.
Going to Cub Foods, and it was like it was on like the impulse aisle as you would like check out. Like there would just always be a copy of Flatliners on VHS for someone to buy.
Actually, here too, it would always be like on an end cap or something. I don't know. They were really trying to make Flatliners happen.
Yeah, like this will be popular with the grocery store crowd.
Yeah, somebody's gonna impulse buy Flatliners for sure.
The movie
You
that
get
gets bigger on VHS.
yeah. You're gonna get some M&Ms and be like, oh, there's Flatliners. Let's get that.
But like so clearly, like Lonely Island may have had this same weird experience with Flatliners in order to make it this like extended joke. In Popstar.
Yeah. Let's make a whole scene where someone's getting flatlines.
And they never pick that back up, by the way. I think you see Bill Hader in passing, like maybe in one other.
That's all we
scene.
learn about him.
Yeah, the guitar tech, Bill Hader's guitar tech. That's it. He just likes to F line sometimes, and then you're out. You don't question it. You're like, okay.
And I'm pretty sure that he like improv that whole scene too. They're
Oh,
like,
yeah. It feels like it.
they're like, what's your origin story? And he's like, I used to get F line in my spare time.
It's a
You're
great
like, okay,
time,
go.
right,
Let's go.
to F lining.
Yeah, like everyone's supposed to know what that is. So, Brad, what is your favorite song from the soundtrack?
It's hard because there's probably, well, I put two at the top. I think "Humble" is probably like the best song. Like I just love the lyrics and the whole thing with that. My favorite, though, I think is the Bin Laden "Finest Girl," which has nothing to do with the Bin Laden song, because it is so just like, how do you connect these two things? How do you come up with a girl who wants to have sex and she compares it to the clinical precision the U.S. military had when they shot Bin Laden? The brilliance behind that and how it's just great, and then the whole stage production. So I think favorite, I got to go with that one. It's so memorable.
Yes.
You agree with that, Nicole?
Honestly, I have to. This song is like a classic, and I have heard it before, but I don't think that I've ever. It's very different to experience it in the world of the movie because, as Brad was saying, the stage setup for it is so stupid and so funny. But yeah, like she was a freaky kind of girl that kept up with current events from all around the world.
More specifically, one event.
That time Osama bin Laden got shot in the head. How are you gonna not love that? I mean, that's a big. I don't even know who got the idea to do this because it's so dumb. It's so great.
And it works.
Yeah.
Right.
And the part where he's talking about like invading her cave, and they're kind of technically there was no cave.
Yeah. he corrects her on that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think "Humble" just works as just like a pop song in general. Also a huge fan of the Style Boys song "Karate Guy."
Oh yeah, that one's great.
That's pretty good.
We have not talked about Karate Guy, but I feel like that deserves a moment.
Like it doesn't make any sense, but I love. Now I'm wearing a cowboy hat.
Yes, the 3 cowboy hats. Yes.
Yeehaw!
So good.
Me likey, that's a pretty good one too. It's kind of buried at the end, but you can tell that one's pretty fun if they would maybe play the whole thing.
I also appreciate how there's like a little bonus track about Maximus, the turtle.
The turtle.
Yes, the ill-fated turtle with. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to read it. What is it again? He has soggy bone syndrome.
He wasn't supposed to live more than 3 to 6 months, but here he is 20 years later.
Maximus's funeral.
Oh my God, the Viking funeral for Maximus the turtle, where they send him off on a raft in the party pool and then light him ablaze and everybody like jumps in the pool. Great.
For some reason, like I remembered the funeral, but I didn't remember everyone jumping in the pool afterwards. Like I said, this movie constantly like reintroduces like so many funny things to me. I had a good time with that. Oh yeah, another thing about Incredible Thoughts is a couple of the writers that are featured on it. There was a really popular song by B.O.B. around this time called Airplanes. It's like the rapper B.O.B. and Haley Williams from Paramore sings the chorus, and I think Eminem is also on the song. And they kind of lifted that chorus from these songwriters, and they're the ones that, like, if you think about it, like the Incredible Thoughts chorus is very similar to that airplane song, and I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. And that's also very 2016 in my opinion. With the authenticity of the music, like they have to, like the Lonely Island guys, like they have to show a level of competency to be able to go in the studio with like these actual professional studio musicians. And I think you see it definitely on this album. If you have ever questioned it before on like the Whack album or Incredibad.
Yeah, I was just looking back at the Whack album because when we talked about that, they had Pharrell, Adam Levine, Kendrick Lamar, Hugh Jackman, Billy Joe Armstrong, Justin Timberlake, and Lady Gaga are all on that album with them. And then the video, if you look back at some of the videos they made, well, P. Diddy, uh, but Paul Rudd, Danny McBride, James Franco, Zach Galifianakis, Ed Norton, who you don't think of as very funny usually, but he does one it's the fact that they can get all these people to just screw around with them. They do have to be good at it. They have to be competent. Otherwise, it's just a joke, and they wouldn't get them. And that's what makes it. That's what makes it so good, and sets them apart from other, acts that might try to do the same thing.
Yeah, and I think you can tell they have an industry respect. I think the Weird Al cameo at the very end is Hammerleg. Is that the band that
Oh, did I
Weird
miss
Al?
that? Is Weird Al in there?
Yeah, that's
I've
Weird
never
Al.
noticed that.
Yeah, he's the you assume the lead singer of Hammerleg, who's introducing them at the end for the end performance.
I'll have to check that out again.
Poppies.
And Hammerleg is briefly mentioned before in the movie where Tim Meadows is like, oh, selling 13,000 seats at an 18,000 seat venue is pretty good. Not every, no one sells this place out. And then Connor
Hammerleg
goes,
did.
Hammerleg sold it out last week.
You know what's funny about this to me is that there's Weird Al is playing big venues now, y'all. Like he's playing like the Forum coming up soon. Weird Al has reached a place
He
where
seems to be getting more popular, like
Yeah.
now. It's crazy. I don't know where that comes from, but everybody seems to just love him.
everybody is on the Weird Al bandwagon.
I
I've
guess.
been there because I grew up with Weird Al. But I've seen
Yeah.
Weird Al play at like the county fair, and now he's like this.
Yeah, he did like back-to-back nights at the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's put out a new album in a while.
No, I think he's just, coasting on the mountains of things that he has done. But I think there's no greater endorsement of your skills as parody act than Weird Al coming on and saying like, yeah, I'm gonna cameo in your movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's all I need.
So as far as the Lonely Island goes, what is your favorite Lonely Island project outside of this movie?
So like, yeah, you gave a couple lists of things there. Well, you had Brooklyn Nine-Nine on that list, and I think I just love that show. I've watched every episode of that, and then in Parks and Rec. But Hot Rod is one that people love, and I hadn't seen until recently, and I found them like, well, I guess I got to watch this because I figured it was stupid, but after loving everything they do and hearing about it, I'm like, well, it's probably better than I think. And that was a good movie too. And I did like Palm Springs. I only saw that one once, but so I mean, pretty much anything they've done, I like. That Whack album I liked a lot. They have a song on there called YOLO that I think is like kind of like Humble, where it's just so catchy and it's great to listen to as a regular song almost. And again, it has Adam Levine on it, who I normally don't like.
I actually think Lonely Island projects might be like massively underseen and kind of underrated. I also love Palm Springs. Palm Springs is a great film. I feel like no one's seen it. Maybe it was only released on Hulu or something to that effect.
It got good when it first came out. Like, I mean, but people, if you didn't watch it then, you probably missed it. But like, I was excited to watch that when it came out. That seemed to get a lot of hype, at least at the time, and it's gotten really great reviews.
I will be haunted forever by J.K. Simmons saying, "You need to find your Irvine."
Right? Well, for a lot of reasons, I feel like if you're from Southern California, there are parts of it that are more resonant and more entertaining, but Palm Springs is great. Hot Rod is great. I'd never seen Popstar, and I'm so glad that I did. I feel like I want to transport myself back to 2015 for a bunch of reasons.
Cool beans.
Cool beans.
Have you seen the Lonely Island Oakland A's
Oh, the
special
Bash
that they did for
Brothers?
Netflix? The Bash Brothers one?
Yeah,
Oh, I have seen that. I
so
did see
that's
that.
one that I watched once, and that one I don't remember liking very much, which you'd think I would like it, but I'd probably have to see it again. Maybe I wasn't in the right mood that day. Um, but yeah, I saw
I,
that, and everybody I know loves it.
I liked it, but I think it ran a little long. I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's 6 songs of this. But I remember they played a show. They don't play a lot of shows, but I remember maybe like a few months before the special came out, they played a show in Pasadena and someone recorded video and it was up on some website where they debuted the song with no context. So you just have Andy Samberg looking like Andy Samberg and Akiva Schaffer looking like Akiva going, "I'm Jose. I'm Mark." And they're just like, are they rapping about baseball?
I feel like your enjoyment of that partially depends on your relationship to that era of baseball too. It's like my husband
Yes.
loved it. My husband was like, "This is great."
Yeah, and that's exactly why I should love it. So I probably should watch that one again.
And they do have a song about like injecting steroids into each other.
It's a good point about going long, though. One of the things I love about Popstar, the movie's like less than an hour and a half long, but so I had never really listened to the entire soundtrack until you asked me to do this. So I listened to it in my car the other night when I was we were on a road trip somewhere, and I'm loving it for a long time. But then it goes on, and there's 28 tracks technically, a couple of our like speaking parts, but there are several songs at the end that are like, I don't think I need this. And it's just the same swearing, just the same. It's the same thing over and over. It's so filthy. And it's like, okay, I think I got enough of that one. So, I think they got to be careful to, keep it at the right amount. That can be tricky.
Yes, having a good editor is important. And I mean, that's also a problem I think that we have in the streaming age in general. It's like, oh, let's just put out a deluxe edition so more people listen to it.
Yeah.
And let's just add these 10 songs that are not as good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That movies are too long and then albums are too long. I agree there. Let's go back to keeping it, quality instead of quantity.
I love a 90-minute movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of how this movie kind of like predicted a lot of things, Hunter the Hungry, which is played by Chris Redd, who I don't think had debuted on SNL yet. They just found him. He's great in this movie. He is this foul-mouthed rapper, very shocking in his lyrics. Talking about how he's like a Tyrannosaurus. So that seems very modeled after the early part of Tyler, the Creator's career. Because he was kind of this shock rapper who had daddy issues and used a lot of offensive homophobic language and stuff like that. And now Tyler's huge. Like Tyler's a festival headliner, sort of huge. He's got like he's doing like 6 days at like Crypto Arena in like February, like which is funny because he has a song where he says I'm the second biggest in my city after Kenny, and that's a fact. And I was like, rappers admit that? That's very humble of him to be like, I'm the second biggest rapper. I mean, obviously Kendrick Lamar is much more popular than him, but to admit that in a song seems like something that Connor for real, well, actually he wouldn't admit it, but
Maybe at the end.
Yeah, maybe towards the end there.
Well, I'm glad you brought up because I not liking this kind of music that much. Like I figured he was kind of based maybe on somebody in particular, but like I would have no idea. So that kind of fills in a blank there.
I love that that Two Banditos song that they do together.
That's good.
And they don't really explain like how that song came together because it's not off of Connor's album, but he joined the tour and they have the song, and And the prank war with them is pretty fun.
Yeah, I like that whole because I like how they're such good friends at first, like, and they really help and support each other. But then that goes obviously very wrong with the whole quick change thing.
Yeah.
It's a
hence
great
the
conundrum.
hence the 30 seconds to Mars. And also just like those crazy eyes that Chris Red is so good at
He's good at
doing.
that.
And maybe I did it. Maybe I didn't. And you can't tell because he just like looks crazy.
That whole sequence of him trying to reverse the PR after he like tucks back all of his junk and people think that he doesn't have a dick is like stupidest extended scene. Great.
I gotta go tweet out a picture of my dick now. No, you don't.
Don't
Please
do that.
Please don't do that.
Oh, yeah. Sarah Silverman, very good in this movie.
Yeah, it's another one.
Um,
Her and Tim Meadows are really about the only two that aren't like cameo length, pretty much. Actually, somewhat starring roles.
Amazing deadpan where she goes, I don't really listen to music like Connor's, but it makes a lot of people money.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to make so much people happy, and then she says, "But
Yeah.
it makes so many people money."
Yeah, which is like the most honest thing anyone says in this movie.
Yeah. She also has two of the best lines too, because I love when they go out because they got to go see Owen, but he has to put his makeup on, and you don't know what that means, and he's got this disguise, and before she even said it, I'm like, he looks like Matthew Modine, who is
Yeah.
a lot of people wouldn't know who that is. Maybe they do through Stranger Things, but like in my age, like we all grew up with Matthew Modine, and she's like, you look like you got bee stings from by Matthew Modine with a peanut allergy.
And then she tells him, like, you look like Nazi propaganda.
Those are maybe the two best lines in the whole movie, I think.
Yeah, those are great singers.
Well, then when Owen sees him, he goes, you look like Jason Segel.
That's right.
And then he goes, oh, Sarah Marshall, fuck you.
I'm trying to forget her.
Well, speaking of that, so there is, you will have to confirm this. Maybe people who are listening can confirm this beyond a shadow of a doubt, but it seems to be that the penis that you see pressed against the limo window in the scene, it's an amazing scene. It's like an escalating scene where he's like talking to the farmer style boy, right?
Lawrence, yeah.
Yeah, Lawrence. And suddenly this fan is pressing a full frontal penis on the side of the window.
It flops over the window.
They have said that is Judd Apatow's penis. And the reason Judd Apatow decided to be the penis in that scene is because he felt like he had asked so many other actors, like Jason Segel in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, to go full frontal that it was like his turn. So supposedly that's Judd Apatow's penis.
It's a really good story if it's true.
Wish I didn't know that.
I don't know. Watch it back. You make your own determination.
Much prefer to just being an anonymous man's penis. But
pause it. I don't know.
Now I'm gonna have to watch and be like, is that Judd's? I mean, you didn't fully describe that amazing scene. First, it starts with breasts against the window, which you kind of expect in this universe.
A butt first, then
a butt, and then breasts, and you're like, okay, and then it escalates to the penis.
And it's because the girlfriend of that guy wants him to autograph
fiance.
The penis
my fiance
for her.
Yeah. And then a lot of hand sanitizer.
And then the window goes up and down, and it streaks and it flips over the window.
And the whole time, Connor and Lawrence are having this like
serious talk.
Great.
One more cameo I want to throw out, because as a guy, I probably wouldn't expect to see her. I love Ringo Starr in here, and the
but
fact
they can already get married.
He's writing a song for gay marriage, like it's not allowed. It's allowed now. That's such a great line, and that I just love that when you see people you don't expect, and then like every one of these cameos is that's so much part of the movie, but they all just own up and buy in, and it's great.
And Ringo's voice is always so funny to me.
Yeah. It's perfect for that line. It makes it even
really
funnier. It's allowed now.
After this movie came out, I would stream and listen to the soundtrack all the time. My wife would get really annoyed with me even though she enjoyed the movie. And one of the stupidest songs on the soundtrack that I think it's the only one we haven't talked about yet, is Ibiza.
Ibiza.
I can't think about the explanation that he has for that song without laughing.
And then hi yeah 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 yeah. Yeah, it's just like generic EDM bullshit, but the fact that he feels like he needs to like slur and like sing with like a speech impediment because that's how they sound like in España.
España.
I think the part where he's like, how does he pronounce paella? I don't think I can do it.
It's maybe not the most re-listenable song, but every now and then it'll really cheer you up.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
mean,
my
it's
favorite, but
funny.
you can tell
Yeah.
they're having fun singing it, so it rubs off.
Favorite non-musical moment of this movie that we haven't talked about? Do you have one? Let's empty the clip. What else you got?
Just looking through my stuff. Oh, well, here's a good one, and because this was kind of related to Justin Bieber when he's I don't remember what point this in the movie was, but Sarah Silverman asked him, "Did you take a shit in the Anne Frank house?" And
Yes.
I mean, that was great.
And they move on from it. Like they just move on.
Yeah.
Like oh, and also there's that little part where he's going through this like PR disaster of a time.
It's during that, yeah, right? Everything he does is wrong.
Yeah, and he's on the hoverboard and he's asleep on the hoverboard and they're like filming him, like the paparazzi is filming him asleep on the hoverboard, and then it just suddenly like
Lights on fire.
spontaneously combusts and like lights on fire. So great. I also really enjoyed there's this stupid part at the beginning where there's like a montage of him doing all these promos, and he's doing promo for these embroidered jeans called white butt jeans.
That's good.
And he's doing like the photo shoot for white butt jeans, and there are two different embroidery like sayings on the butt of the jeans, and one of them is Jizz Factory and the other one is exit only, and that like
awesome.
really whatever like baroque embroidery. So good.
I'd get some exit only jeans if they existed.
Only white butt jeans.
One of the other, it's so funny because it's the only time in the movie where they like tell the cameras to shut off because he's letting him do everything, and then as they're having this serious discussion, the bees come in and they kill him with flamethrowers, and you can hear all the audio, and it's this amazing thing, and they're like, "Please tell me you got that," and then
Like, no, you told us to turn off the camera.
So that was pretty good too.
Get him! Get the flamethrower! There's the queen.
The list of the 32 people on his payrolls, that's pretty good too. The guy who punches him in the nuts so he remembers where he came from.
Oh, what was the guy?
The perspective manipulator.
Yeah, the perspective manipulator.
The short guy who stands next to him so he appears taller.
Yeah, we all need one of those.
Indeed.
That would probably cover about all my favorite parts.
So one small thing that I forgot about that I really liked in the movie. It wasn't like funny, but when they turned the Poppy Award into a bong, I was like, oh, that's like such a nice resolution for this.
Yes.
I do like that whole scene where they reunite, and then that whole long apology where he basically won't admit and he keeps talking, and eventually the whole writing of that thing is awesome. And then when he just
making a power move,
looks like he's gonna punch him,
played.
And then they hug, and that's great.
Yeah, it comes from you barely contributed to I was barely there. You wrote the whole thing.
Oh, that's right. I remember now. I wasn't even there.
But like Lawrence like chucks the award, right? And then you're like, oh, maybe that's just the end of it. And then the fact that they like retrieve it and turn it into a bong, I felt like it's just very heartwarming.
It is actually kind of heartwarming. Like it's kind of weirdly wholesome, even though you've been taken through like all of these weed strains that Lawrence has farmed that are like Witch's Titty, Aquabet, Beethoven's Nightmare. One of them called postpartum depression.
Postpartum depression.
Kind of killed me.
Yeah,
it's heartwarming, kind of. You're right. There's something about like making a bomb or a bong out of like unexpected materials as a friend unit.
Like it felt like a real resolution, you know?
It fits for them. It's logical for them, so it works.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Brad, for coming on our podcast.
It was an honor to get asked back. I appreciate it.
We obviously love talking to you about this movie and soundtrack. Thank you for also enjoying this movie so we could talk to you about it.
Well, and thank you for listening enough to our show that you know that I love this movie. So
Of
that makes it
course.
fun too. I love to find the things we have in common.
So Brad, where can people find Pop Culture Yearbook?
Well, we are on everything still. A lot of people are leaving certain places, but we're at Pop Yearbook on Facebook and X. I guess I still call it Twitter. We got to be on there because we get so many interaction on there. So we're not leaving there. We're on Instagram. Everything goes on to Threads too. So we're on all those. But you can find us on any of the podcast platforms under Pop Culture Yearbook. We talk nostalgia. It's three friends. We've grown up with each other. We love all the same movies and music and TV shows, and we're just kicking off our fifth season this month of February. We got almost 200 episodes now, so
Oh, wow.
there's a lot
Congrats.
out
Congrats.
there. You name it, we might have done it.
Well, you can also find us. Well, you've already found our podcast, but if you want to follow us on social media, we are also still on Twitter and Instagram at SoundtrackCast. If you are on the blue sky, we are just at soundtrackyourlife.net. And also, if you want to hear about our musical tastes, our picks of 2024, and you can also see Brad's 2024 picks or hear about them, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/soundtrackyourlife. Well, thanks again, Brad, and maybe we'll do this again sometime.
Thank you. Well, glad to get you back on our show again too.
Would love it. Would love it.